Infinite banking is a scam, and I'm going to prove it to you with the math the promoters never show you. In fact, infinite banking is one of the most aggressively marketed financial strategies in America right now. And if you've built serious wealth, a business, real estate, a professional practice, a meaningful investment portfolio, there's a very high probability that someone has pitched this to you, maybe more than once. The pitch is polished. Become your own bank. Stop paying interest to financial institutions. Build guaranteed wealth inside of a whole life insurance policy. Borrow against it, tax-free. Pass it on to your heirs efficiently. It sounds sophisticated. It sounds like something only smart, financially aware people know about. And that framing that this is insider knowledge for the financially elite is precisely what you need to examine carefully, because today I'm going to show you the math they do not show you. 3 paths side by side over 30, 40, and 50 years. And I want to warn you up front, the comment section in this video is going to be very entertaining. We'll get to that in a few minutes. I'm the business guy from the Lawyers Limited Law Firm and Asset Protection Planners. I've been in the asset protection field for 35 years. I've worked with business owners, real estate developers, physicians, executives, and entrepreneurs whose assets were genuinely at risk from lawsuits, creditors, from judgments. And my job has always been to find the most efficient, legally sound way to protect what they built. That perspective matters for this video because the questions I'm answering today is not whether whole life insurance is good or bad in the abstract. The question is, for a serious wealth builder with real assets and real legal exposure, what is the most intelligent allocation of capital and what actually protects it when the legal system comes looking? Let me start with what infinite banking actually looks like underneath the marketing language. A whole life insurance policy has 2 components, a permanent death benefit and a cash value account that accumulates over time. Tax deferred at a rate set by the issuing mutual insurance company. Infinite banking, or IBC, the infinite banking concept, is the practice of using that accumulated cash value over here as collateral to take policy loans from the insurance company. The loan is not technically a withdrawal, which means your cash value continues to earn its dividend rate on the full balance while the loan is outstanding. The theoretical elegance is that you are using your money in 2 places at once. You have capital available for investment or expenses, and that same capital is still compounding inside the policy. So that logic is not fraudulent. The problem is not the concept in isolation. The problem is what the math shows when you run it honestly across decades against a simple low-cost alternative. A properly structured whole life policy for a healthy 45-year-old paying $5,000 per month in premium, which is typical for a higher net worth person, $60,000 a year, you will have a surrender value in 1 year between $28,000 and $42,000, depending on how the policy is designed. So in other words, you have deposited $60,000, and at the end of that year, your accessible wealth is roughly half that. This is not hidden information. It's disclosed in the policy illustrations, but what is frequently underemphasized in the initial presentation in a way that a sophisticated buyer would push back hard if they understood the math is that the agent who sold you that policy earned a commission of somewhere between 50 and 90% of your first year's premium. On a $60,000 annual premium policy, that is $30,000 to $54,000 paid in commission into the person who sold it to you into their pocket in 1 year alone. Again, that's not hidden, disclosed, completely legal, but rarely communicated at the point of sale with enough clarity for the buyer to truly internalize what they're actually funding in the early years of that policy. Okay, now let me show you 3 paths. Hold a specific scenario in your mind for the rest of this video. You're a 45-year-old business owner, a physician, or investor in excellent health. You have $60,000 per year to deploy into a long-term wealth building strategy. You have that left over. You intend to keep this going for 30 to 50 years. Now, path 1 here is infinite banking. You put the entire $60,000 per year into the dividend-paying whole life policy from one of the major mutual insurance companies. After commissions, mortality, and expense charges, the slow buildup of early cash value realistic historical projections from well-performing mutual carriers show net cash value growth of approximately 3.5% to 4.5%. In other words, barely keeping up with inflation annually over the life of the policy. So let's use 4%, which is generous and represents a well-managed policy from a top-rated carrier. At 4% return per year, with $60,000 invested annually over 30 years, you have accumulated approximately $3.4 million in that 30-year period of time. So that's how much you have in cash value. Over 40 years, you have approximately $5.7 million. And over 50 years, you have $9.5 million from your $60,000 a year investment. Now, I want to be fair. These are real numbers, not fabricated. And $9.5 million is meaningful outcome in isolation. The problem is the comparison. And here's where the math really tells the story. Path number 2, buy term insurance and invest the difference. A healthy 45-year-old, just like before, can purchase a 20-year level term policy with a $2 million death benefit for roughly to $250 per month. Call it $3,000 a year. That leaves $57,000 per year to invest. So $60,000 to invest minus $3,000 a year for the term life insurance policy. And you put the remaining $57,000 into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. The S&P 500 has averaged approximately 10% annually over the last 50 years. And I'm going to use 8% to be super conservative for this comparison. And that's a conservative inflation-adjusted figure that accounts for bear markets, flat years, and does not assume continuous perfect returns. At 8% on $57,000 annually, over 30 years, you have accumulated over $6.4 million. Over 40 years, approximately $15.2 million. And over 50 years, north of $35 million. Same person, same $60,000 a year, completely different destination. The gap in 30 years is approximately $3 million in favor of term plus interest. At 40 years, the gap is nearly $10 million. Now, I want you to sit with that number for a moment. $25 million is the 50-year opportunity cost of the financial product that was presented to you as a sophisticated, exclusive wealth building system that only smart, wealthy people know about. Now, let me be explicit about where the gap goes, because it matters to understand it clearly. It goes to first-year commissions, ongoing trail commissions, mortality charges embedded in the policy cost structure, administrative fees, and the fundamental design constraint of a product that must guarantee a death benefit, which requires the insurance company to hold substantial reserves against your life rather than simply compounding your premium dollars for maximum growth. Now keep in mind, once you have $6 million or $15.2 million, you're really unlikely that you need life insurance anymore, because if you pass away, your loved ones will be very, very handsomely taken care of. Now that's it. All of this is disclosed in policy documents. All of it's legal. None of it is presented to you, however, on a side-by-side 50-year comparison at the point of the sale. Let's say you started this at, graduate from college at 22 years old, get a job and start this at that time. By the time 50 years have passed, you're only 72, and you probably have plenty of years left. And look how much you would have cost yourself by getting sucked into this nonsense. And again, I say this not to impugn the integrity of insurance agents, many of whom genuinely believe in the product they sell, but because you, specifically with serious assets and long-time horizons, deserve to see the complete picture before making a multi-decade, difficult-to-exit financial commitment. And if you appreciate this information, please click the like button so they promote this video. Many thanks. And click the subscribe button if you haven't already, so that when more videos come out like this, you'll get notified right away. And if you want to set up an offshore asset protection structure to protect your assets from lawsuits and watch your wealth grow strategically and properly, understand how properly structured wealthy people actually build and defend their capital, or simply get clear answers about your options, visit us at assetprotectionplanners.com and you get a lot of free information there. Okay, now I mean this with complete seriousness and a degree of genuine affection for the human dynamic at play. Let me tell you exactly what is about to happen in the comment section of this video. People who sell whole life insurance for a living will explain patiently that I don't understand, that I'm an idiot, that it doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't understand the concept, and that I'm missing the real value that is not simply a rate of return. People who have purchased a whole life policy 5 or 10 years ago have a substantial financial and emotional commitment to that decision. Will tell you they are making a mistake by listening to me. There will be references to Nelson Nash. There will be careful, detailed arguments about tax-free loans, about guaranteed floor of return, about estate planning elegance of the permanent death benefit, about the peace of mind that comes with certainty in an uncertain world. Some of these arguments will be written in very long, thoughtful paragraphs using AI. Some will be passionate. A few will be personal. A few will be insulting. And I understand this entirely. When somebody has made a long-term financial commitment of this magnitude, the psychological need to validate that decision is real. It is completely understandable. It is human. But what I'm asking you to do is something genuinely harder than reading a comment thread. Don't believe me. Don't believe them. Pull out a policy illustration, any whole life policy you own or currently evaluating, and ask 3 specific questions. What is the 30-year surrender value in total dollars? What is the internal rate of return on all premiums paid to date? What is the total premiums paid over 20 years versus projected cash value at year 20? Then open any compound interest calculator and just do it online and enter the same annual contribution at 8%. And let the difference do the arguing for you. The math does not have a commission to protect. And I don't have a commission to protect because I don't currently sell insurance. What brings me to path 3, and where this video becomes genuinely important for people with real assets at stake. Because building wealth efficiently is only half the equation. The other half, the half even sophisticated investors frequently underway, is keeping it. You can build $8 million, $12 million, $20 million in a tax-efficient index fund portfolio. And if you're a physician, a business owner, a real estate developer, or any professional operating in an environment where litigation is a routine professional reality, every dollar of that wealth is accessible to plaintiffs, judgment creditors, and anyone with a motivated attorney and a sustainable contingency fee arrangement. In fact, I've spent 30 years setting up Cook Islands trusts. Our firm, they tell me, has set up more Cook Islands trusts than any organization in the world. And the pattern that I have observed across real cases and real clients over 3 decades is consistent. The people who built wealth efficiently, but structured it without legal insulation, are among the most exposed, precisely because they built something worth taking and didn't make it legally difficult to reach. So here's what path 3 looks like in practice. Okay, first, you buy term insurance. Clean, inexpensive, appropriate to your actual life situation. Because eventually, as your wealth accumulates, you won't need it. In the meantime, when you're younger, you might need it for family obligations. If something happens to you, take care of your wife and kids or your spouse and other people that depend on you. You invest the premium difference in a low-cost index fund and allow compound growth to run without structural drag for as long as possible. And as your accumulated wealth grows to a level where it becomes a genuine target, and that threshold is lower than most people assume, because a $3 million judgment against somebody with $8 million in unprotected brokerage assets is not hypothetical. It is a pattern that I've seen repeatedly. And you build a legal structure around it, you'll have peace of mind. And specifically, because this is the most powerful legal tool for asset protection, a Cook Islands trust, which is represented by this purple box, with a Cook Islands LLC inside of it. That way, your assets are protected and you have a tool inside the trust that you as the manager can control. You're the signature on the bank account. You control investment decisions. You control where your money goes. You're the manager of the LLC that's inside the trust. You have a licensed trustee company law firm that's licensed and bonded, has a reputable reputation, and they step in and they're the trustee of the trust. And then when the bad thing happens, you come under legal attack, the trustee company law firm can step in as manager of that LLC. So when the U.S. courts say, give me the money, our offshore company law firm says, sorry, you don't have jurisdiction here in the Cook Islands. We're not going to turn it over. You're off the hook because you don't have the legal ability to grab the funds and follow that order. Your assets are protected, and this way, with this arrangement, you're safe and secure because your return on investment, if somebody takes all of your money, is minus. It's less than zero. because you're losing money. In other words, the trustee, a licensed bonded law firm based in the Cook Islands, is legally present but operationally dormant. Then when a legal threat is triggered, a lawsuit is served, a creditor initiates action, a judgment is being pursued, the structure activates. The trustee, like I said, steps in, legal control transfers. The assets are now held in a foreign account, in a safe foreign institution, with a foreign fiduciary operating under Cook Islands law, which does not recognize U.S. court orders and does not provide enforcement mechanisms for domestic judgments. A plaintiff's attorney evaluating collection options is now facing a very specific problem. The money exists, but retrieving it requires foreign legal proceedings, substantial investment of additional time and cost, and an outcome that is far from guaranteed. Experienced plaintiffs' counsel, they do the math. Cases that would have produced devastating judgments against unprotected defendants have, in case after case across 30 years of practice that I've been doing this, resolved very differently because of the collectability reality. Fundamentally change the negotiating dynamic. Okay, let me make the contrast concrete without compromising anyone's privacy. A composite client, I'll describe, built a portfolio worth $11 million over 28 years. And this is primarily through the sale of a business, as well as disciplined index fund investing afterward. He had heard the infinite banking pitch early in his career, ran the numbers himself, and passed away. When a significant lawsuit was filed against him with a demand approaching $5 million, his accumulated wealth was inside a properly established offshore trust structure that had been in place before the legal threat arose. The plaintiff's attorney, after evaluating what collection would actually require against a foreign trustee not bound by U.S. court order, settled for a fraction of the original amount. That outcome was not luck. It was not negotiating skill alone. It was architecture. That $11 million was worth building precisely because it could be defended when the legal system came for it. And it did come for it. So this is the conversation that the infinite banking community does not have with you. They will discuss tax efficiency, the guaranteed floor, the elegance of generational wealth transfer through the permanent death benefit. What they will not show you is the 30, 40, or 50-year comparison against the alternatives run at realistic numbers. They will not walk you through what happens to your cash value when a plaintiff files and begins executing collection. Cash value inside a whole life insurance policy carries a creditor protection in certain states, but not uniformly and not completely and not with the same structural, legally enforced insulation as a properly established offshore trust designed specifically to resist foreign judgment enforcement. Okay, let me bring this to a close. The fundamental instinct behind infinite banking: control your capital, reduce financial vulnerability, build liquidity on your terms, let your wealth compound for you rather than for a bank, is a completely legitimate financial philosophy. The instinct is right. The delivery mechanism is where the math falls apart. In fact, the older I get, the less I listen to what people say and the more I watch what they do. So in this case, you want to run the math. You want to do the numbers. So being your own bank is not about paying $30,000 to $50,000 of your first year's capital in agent commissions. It is about building wealth efficiently, protecting it legally, and structuring it in a way that gives you genuine legal enforceable control, not the impression of control wrapped in proprietary language in a community belonging. I mean, think about who has some of the biggest lobbyists. It's the insurance industry because they can afford them and they can afford to support the politicians who write the laws in their favor. Now, Cook Islands Trust, with the Cook Islands LLC inside of it, achieves every goal that infinite banking promises without sacrificing $25 million of compounding across 50 years. I've been in this field for 35 years. The people I've seen keep what they've built are not always the most aggressive investors. They are the most intentional architects of how their wealth is structured, held, and defended. So that is what this channel is about. And if you're ready to think about that structure, visit us at assetprotectionplanners.com and you get a lot more free information there. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.